Okay, today we start the 5th chapter of the 4th act of the journey home. May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. Let's dive right into it. Dysentery. An all too common malady for foreigners in India soon struck me down again. Weakness, nausea, and repeated dashes to the latrine became my daily reality. Without the selfless care of my friend Asim, it would have been far more difficult. He often reassured me, Bhakti means to serve with love and devotion. While I lay on the floor, Asim brought boiled rice, yogurt, and flea seed husk. Each time he visited, he would share his love for Krishna and Vrindavan. In this way, my sickness became just another episode that helped to cement our friendship. Early one morning, I had regained my health, and Asim invited me to join him on a journey into the inner villages around Vrindavan. He told me that Vraja was the name for the whole area around the town of Vrindavan, and that Krishna had performed his pastimes in this area. Vraja consists of about 80 miles of forests, fields, and villages, and over 5,000 temples of Krishna, some the largest in all of India, and others are quite quaint. You'll be fascinated by the Vrajabasi's natural love of Krishna. His blue eyes widened with enthusiasm. Shall we go? A few minutes later, we were bouncing and creaking along in a dilapidated local bus. Fields of golden wheat and mustard, its yellow flowers bending in the wind, stretched out on all sides. Every so often, poor farmers on the side of the road would flag down the bus and climb aboard. Their clothes were ragged. Some of them suffered cataracts, skin diseases, or untreated infections. But they were blissful as they sang devotional songs, clapped their hands, and danced on the moving bus. Old women with wrinkles creviced into their dark, leathery skin spontaneously rose to their feet, raised their arms, and danced while shyly covering their heads with tattered saris. They beamed with the exuberance of children. In the villages, the Vrajabasis, although poor, smiled radiantly and greeted one another with Jaya Radhe, the name of the compassionate feminine aspect of Krishna. That name is actually in all the sunflowers you see here. Radhe. They loved God, not just as the supreme creator, but also as an intimate neighbor in their village. The women drew water from a well and carried it on top of their heads in round clay pots, smiling at me as they passed, chanting, Radhe, Radhe. From their clay stoves, the pungent smell of burning dried cow dung patties drifted in the air. The men of the village shaved their heads each month as an offering of devotion and spent their days herding cows, plowing fields with their oxen, or selling their wares along the footpath. The skinny children, eyes sparkling, jumped about, playing with sticks and balls. Everybody, man, woman, and child, smiled at me and called out, Radhe, Radhe, as I passed. I observed hundreds of villagers coming to the temples with offerings of milk, butter, and sweets, some praying and others singing and dancing for the pleasure of their Lord. Walking through this other world, I reflected. The religion of these people is not reserved for Sundays or holidays, but is intrinsic to every aspect of their daily lives. It is utterly spontaneous. One afternoon, Asim and I were relaxing on the hill of Madan Mohan Temple, overlooking the river Yamuna. Sitting in the grass as black bees hummed a meditative drone around us, I stretched my legs and leaned back against the boundary wall of red stone. There, I revealed my mind. "Asim," I asked, "could you explain your understanding of deity worship?" I told him of how, in my travels through India, I'd found almost everybody worshipping the carved image of the Lord. The yogis and Shaivites worshipped the Shiva Lingam, or statues of Lord Shiva, and the Buddhists made elaborate offerings to the deity of Lord Buddha. Some people from Western religions condemn all this as idolatry, I said. But Christians offer prayers to statues or paintings of Jesus, as well as to the Holy Crucifix. I told him about how, when I was in Italy, I had visited the convent of Saint Damiano in Assisi, where Jesus spoke to Saint Francis from the wooden crucifix on the altar and ordered him to restore his church. And Jews offer articles of veneration to the Torah, while Muslims too, who condemn idol worship, bow repeatedly to the Kaaba in holy Mecca. I knew there were differences in explanations as to the meaning of these forms of worship, but I saw the common idea they shared: to focus on a form or sound that connects our consciousness to divinity. I wondered what Asim's impressions were as they related to Krishna worship. At that moment, Krishna Das Babaji strolled by and erupted into his trademark and blissful Hare Krishna. We bowed in joy as he passed. Although it was I who'd asked him the question, I realized that Asim was giving me the gift of coming to some of my own conclusions. "You know," I went on, "when I see the unbelievable devotion of devotees like Krishna Das Babaji while they worship the deity, I can't dismiss it as idol worship. When I see such high moral and spiritual character, I can't dismiss these people as idolaters. They seem to be experiencing love for God in their worship. Didn't Jesus say you could judge a tree by its fruit?" Asim smiled with the reassurance of an elder brother and leaned forward and prompted, "Yes, go on." I told him how, when I first saw deity worship in India, it had repelled me a little, striking me as strange and superstitious. But after spending so much time with holy people who naturally accept their deity as a form through which to communicate with the one God, I have come to accept deity worship as beautiful. Now, I want to understand the scriptural philosophy behind it. Can you help me? Asim sat up near a patch of tulasi bushes, rubbed his chin in deep thought, and took a moment before replying. "Really, I'm not qualified to explain these things, but I'll share what I heard from my guru and what I've read in the Vedic scriptures." As the bees moved from flower to flower, collecting nectar, I drank in his words. God is unlimited and independent, Asim began. To say he cannot appear in the deity form is to limit him. The Vedas also condemn idol worship. Historically, there were traditions in both East and West where people concocted forms and worshipped them out of superstition with no clear conception of the one God. Quite often they had selfish or evil motives. It is this type of idolatry that has been condemned through the ages. In the age of the Bible and Quran, it was common among non-believers. But this is not the type of deity worship approved of by the Vedas. Legitimate deity worship, according to the Vedas, is a science in which the Lord is called with devotional rites to appear in designated forms. In these forms, he accepts our devotional offerings, all for the purpose of purifying the worshipper's body, mind, and words by fixing in us the remembrance of the Lord. The aim is to please the Lord through surrender and love. A butterfly with iridescent purple, red, and yellow wings fluttered by and landed on Asim's thigh. He sat still, appreciating its beauty. "Just look," he said, his voice overflowing with happiness. "Creation is a gallery of art with a masterpiece wherever we look. I long to meet the artist." Everything emanates from the Lord. All material elements are the Lord's energy. By His will, He may choose to appear in His own energy as a deity to help us focus our minds and senses in loving servitude. Just as electricity manifests in a light bulb to radiate light, so God can permeate the deity with His presence. Electricity is invisible to the naked eye, and the bulb by itself gives light only when the electrical energy infuses the bulb with its presence. Then we can see and feel the light. In a similar way, the Lord may appear in the tangible form of a deity to help us see and feel His presence and reciprocate with our love. Smiling, he asked me if he had made sense. I nodded, feeling a feeling of calm permeating my heart. That year, after an abundant monsoon season of rains, Vrindavan was filled with lush forests and pastures. It was autumn, and the days were warm while the nights grew cold. I watched in fascination as the residents of Vrindavan were preparing to celebrate one of their holiest festivals. Followers on the path of bhakti celebrate God's love with the joy of their own love, and the festivals are rich with spontaneity. Wherever I wandered, everyone anticipated the full moon night of October. According to the scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, this was the night when Lord Krishna performed the Rasa dance. I skipped a line, but yeah. Profusely glorified in art, poetry, and drama, the Rasa dance, I would learn, is one of the deepest revelations of spiritual love. The whole of Vrindavan was buzzing with excitement, and the markets bustled with devotees who were purchasing decorations for their temples, ornaments for their deities, and food for the feasts. On this night, all of the 5,000 temples in the region arranged to host a celebration. Just before sunset, a group of disciples assembled around Bon Maharaja in the courtyard to hear him explaining the meaning of the Rasa dance. This is not like any worldly dance wherein people try to satisfy their material senses, he began. While the gopis live as cowherd maids, they embody the highest expression of the soul's love for God, for pleasing the Lord is their exclusive aspiration. This dance represents the most perfect intimacy between the soul and God, free of any tinge of selfish desire, but charged with the fullest bliss. On this night, when Krishna called them from their homes with the sweet song of his flute, the gopis forsook everything they had and risked dangers and social rejection, all to satisfy the Lord. When they reached Krishna, the Supreme Lord, he admitted that in the span of creation, he had no power to sufficiently repay the gopis for their pure devotion. But in reciprocation, he expanded himself to dance simultaneously with each gopi in their eternal spiritual bodies for a night of endless joy. Bon Maharaja turned his face toward the sinking sun, and the rose-colored light glinted in his eyes as he concluded, "In a few moments, we will celebrate, praying to someday follow the lead of the gopis." In the Tulasi garden of Bon Maharaja's temple, the devotees had worked all day constructing a throne by weaving together thousands of tiny fragrant flowers. Now, as the time for celebration arrived, they ceremoniously carried the deities from the altar to the throne amid offerings of sweets and savories. The moon rose in the east, full and golden. In Vrindavan, this Rasa Purnima moon is celebrated as the most beautiful moon of the year. Devotees welcome it with songs composed specifically for this occasion. As the moon climbed higher, its golden light illuminated the 4 directions. All the while, Krishna Das Babaji sang with deep emotion, while everyone else blissfully chanted in response. Joining them, I fixed my mind on the enchanting vision of Radha and Krishna in the moonlit flower forest of Vrindavan. As the moon ascended still higher, it spread its silvery hue on every leaf and flower. Mother Earth seemed lit up by its touch. Bathed in the sweetness of that pearl moon, everyone was beaming, the deities, the forest, and we who worshipped. In this way we sang late into the night for the Lord's pleasure. How deeply my time in Vrindavan was affecting my heart. In the sweetness of those moments, I thought how unconditional spiritual love for God was a higher experience than attaining mystic powers, wherein one could perform supernatural feats, or even liberation, wherein one was freed of all sufferings and anxieties. In spiritual love, like that of the gopis, a devotee fully gives their self for the pleasure of the Lord and can fully relish the intimacy of God's love. Let's pause our reading of The Journey Home there for now. So thank you very much. I'm grateful to have the chance to read to you all. If that sparked any ideas, reflections, or insights, I'd be happy to go through with them. I look forward to continuing where we left off next time.